Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. This is not an episode I wanted to do at all, and I honestly don't even quite know where it's going to end up. I just know I would much rather talk about AI stuff or a couple of recent posts by Andrej Karpathy, and I will get back to that stuff very quickly, but I think it's incumbent on me as somebody who has been covering Elon Musk and Tesla and SpaceX and X.com and XAI more recently to discuss what's going on in the political situation in the United States. Now, of course, I, like everybody else, talks a lot about this in private, but I try not to let it spill over onto this channel. But I think there's a lot of stuff going on here that has to be talked about, and it has huge consequences for us as normal citizens, but also, of course, for Elon Musk and his companies, and for the sort of tech bro culture that has grown up to become a very dominant force in politics in the US and, of course, globally as well. So unfortunately, it's unavoidable to talk about this, so I'm going to do my best here. Anyway, if you don't want to watch this episode, by all means don't. You can skip to the next one, and I won't feel bad about that at all. Anyway, what I'm going to do first is present some of the posts online, and there's just so much stuff going on. This is not an exhaustive list at all. This entire brouhaha started with Elon Musk basically getting kicked out of the government from the Doge work that he was doing. We first heard about this during the Q1 earnings call where Elon Musk said he was going to be backing off from Doge. And of course, things escalated when he was given a golden key by Donald Trump and basically kicked out of the White House and, kicked to the curb and became a private citizen again. Like, I guess he's always been a private citizen. But anyway, he was removed from his sort of position of authority. Now, of course, there was a question of whether he left on his own or whether he was kicked out. I don't really know, and I don't know that we'll ever know that because that's behind closed doors. But clearly there was some bad blood that started to accrue. And then Elon felt it was okay during a CBS interview to criticize the gigantic budget bill that has currently been passed by the House and is going through the Senate. Anyway, he criticized it during that interview, but then it came out on June 3rd, which is only 3 days ago. And by the way, this is the anniversary of D-Day, so a very somber day. So I think maybe that's also influencing my mood. But anyway, this was the one that started it. And I can't believe it was only 3 days ago at this point. But Elon said, "I'm sorry, I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination," which is what, of course, people all over the place are jumping on and calling the bill now. "Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Now, I don't go into the politics of things on this channel at all, but obviously this is a bromance breaking up, right? That is quite clear that you're seeing a significant split between Trump and Musk, who were basically joined at the hip for quite a while during the late stages of the campaign last year and, of course, during the early stages of Donald Trump's second term in the office. And I'm not going to attempt to post these in exact order because they came in so fast and furiously. But anyway, Trump on Truth Social then eventually on June 5th, after 2 days of not saying anything, which is a really interesting, curious aspect about this, said Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted. That's interesting because, of course, the cars had been selling for years. And then in parentheses, he said that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. And then, of course, responding to Autism Capital that said Trump fires back at Elon, the online battle begins. Elon said, "Such an obvious lie, so sad." And then a further post from Trump said, "I'm very disappointed with Elon. I've helped him a lot. He knew the inner workings of the bill better than anybody sitting here. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden, he had a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out we were going to cut the EV mandate." I find that a little less than believable because Elon had actually been advocating for that for quite some time, as I've actually discussed in other videos. Anyway, Elon, regarding the read the bill part, said, "False. This bill was never shown to me, even once, and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. And if you've been paying attention to the news, many Congress people have admitted that they did not read the bill before passing it." And in that vein, Elon said, "Whatever, keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched, very unfair, but ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. In the entire history of civilization, there has never been legislation that is, I guess, both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way." And then in line with the breakup theme, we get those sort of 2 a.m. drunk texts that, after you've broken up or something, you got this, remember this? It's like, I hate the guy, I hate the guy. It's like, oh, remember this beautiful time. And this, of course, was the Tesla event on the White House lawn. And then also we get, where is this guy today, about being a deficit hawk. So there's a weird little nuance to this whole breakup that Musk then posted some some things where it was sort of like regretful and wishing that things could be patched up, but then back to being angry again. And speaking of getting back to being angry, Elon Musk then posted, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." And then he posted after that, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out." So those are some words that it's difficult to pull back from that kind of a thing. You've gone over a precipice at that point. It's gone from attacking policy and stuff to attacking the person ad hominem attacks. Whether or not it's true, that's not for me to decide. But in terms of the way this breakup was going, he just crossed the line. That was going way over the precipice. At which point Trump then fired back, "The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it." So again, a major escalation. And then Elon responded to that, "In light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. If you don't know, that is the only spacecraft from the United States that can take astronauts to the space station and actually put them in space from the United States, and of course resupply the space station as well." So that's a pretty major threat on Elon Musk's part. He's basically saying if the US somehow manages to pull this funding, which I'm not sure what the legality is, I'm not a legal scholar, so I couldn't tell you that, but let's say that actually could happen, then SpaceX would just stop servicing the International Space Station. Russia, of course, is at war with Ukraine, and so the relationship between the United States and Russia on the ISS is already fraught enough. The US government certainly does not want to be beholden to the Russians at this point. So yikes, that's a pretty devastating body blow right back at him. And then we get into even more airing your dirty laundry in public. Ian Miles Chung said, "President versus Elon, who wins? My money is on Elon. Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him," and Elon responded yes to that. And then in response to Shibatoshi Nakamoto saying, "Can I finally say that Trump's tariffs are super stupid?" he replied, "The Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of this year." So of course that's a major policy break as well. And then finally, we have Elon Musk saying, "Without me, Trump would have lost the election. Democrats would control the House and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate." And then he said, "Such ingratitude." An interesting revelation on his part, because I have been saying for quite a while that almost never in history has a single person been able to determine the fate of a US election outside of the candidates themselves. But in the 2024 election, it was pretty obvious that Elon Musk swung the balance very, very decisively. And then finally, Elon asked, "Is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% in the middle? Yes or no?" Alrighty, folks, so that's all of the dirty laundry that was aired. We are somewhere between a Greek tragedy and a middle school breakup drama. The problem here, of course, with the middle school breakup analogy, which many news sources have been sort of riding, is that we're more along the lines of a Greek tragedy because these two people are two of the most influential, important people in the world, and having them go from being super tight and connected at the hip, basically, to battling each other is going to have severe consequences. I privately for months have been saying that Elon Musk has been on a Greek tragedy trajectory. There was a great deal of hubris. There was a great deal of pride. He thought he could do no wrong. He, of course, is in a position of power, just like Oedipus or Antigone, if you look at the old Greek tragedies. And if you haven't read those, you should definitely read them. They have something to say about our current situation, which is really remarkable considering that they're about 2,500 years old, that they still speak to us today. But anyway, the whole pride goes before a fall kind of a thing, right? So Elon had a lot of hubris about his ability to do things in government, to be able to make a change. And there was a naivety on his part, because if you look at what Donald Trump has done, whatever you believe about him and his policies, if you look at his modus operandi, he takes in people into his orbit. He basically destroys their reputation and breaks them financially. Oftentimes, it's not always. And then he spits them back out again as a shell of themselves. A good example of this from his first term is Rudy Giuliani, who was a hero from 9/11, from being the mayor of New York. He went from that to a real laughingstock by the end of Trump's first term. That's the kind of thing that he does over and over and over again. And I have a feeling that Musk, had to have seen this, because all of us have seen this. It's like, that's inevitable. That's what happens. But he thought somehow that he would be immune to this and he would be able to skate by without these negative consequences. That is by no means true. And that's what I want to turn to now, which are the huge consequences of Musk backing Trump for the better part of a year and now having this giant breakup, which I think is going to threaten his legacy. It's going to put a big shadow on a legacy that up until the last few years was generally very positive. He had started multiple businesses. He was running multiple businesses. They were all very successful. They were and still are, of course, doing amazing things and changing the world. And that legacy had a spot in history. The history books were being written. The biographies were being written. This is changing that for Elon Musk, and his legacy is going to be shadowed by this event that caused him to suffer on a personal reputation basis, and also his companies, and particularly Tesla. I mean, I watched my portfolio yesterday lose thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars as Tesla stock tanked even more. And of course, Elon, as the largest shareholder in Tesla, lost billions and billions of dollars just in one day yesterday, and quite a few billions since the election results back in November. So reputationally, he's been damaged. Financially, he's been damaged. Financially, his companies have been damaged. And financially, any of us who are Tesla stock owners or SpaceX stock owners, etc., we have all been damaged as well. And again, that circles back to the question of how did he not see this coming? Because really, this is a pattern that repeats over and over and over again, is that people who get into Trump's orbit are used up and spat out, and their reputation and often their financial situation is damaged drastically. So we've got big problems around the globe with Tesla sales. We've got a Tesla stock crash. We've got funding being threatened to be pulled by Trump. We've got threats to SpaceX and also EV credits, of course. And even beyond that, the tech and AI sector in general, the larger world, I'm talking about the Sam Altmans, the Mark Zuckerbergs, etc. Those folks have been very cozy in politics. And yes, they've been a little bit more circumspect, but they know how to play this game. They've created a very cozy sort of techno-centric government, and this threatens to blow that up as well, which could have major consequences to the US's so far dominance in the AI space. And then if we turn to a second to the Tesla board of directors, they are in a bad way too, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to us shareholders, to the owners of the company, which is all of us who own shares in the company, to make sure that the company is financially as sound and secure as it possibly could be, to make sure that they're, creating value for their stockholders. All of this stuff in the past year has done nothing to support that. It's created a lot of chaos and ultimately has created a great deal of negative pressure. And because the board of directors is legally responsible to its shareholders, they of course are potentially opened up to a class action lawsuit from the Tesla stockholders. So that could damage a whole bunch of people on the board of directors as well. And then of course, speaking of stock, there are us normal people who either directly have purchased Tesla stock or we have it in a retirement portfolio that someone else is managing or something along those lines. I'm sure a lot of people looked at their accounts yesterday and went like, holy mackerel, what happened? Things went really south in terms of Tesla stock and in terms of my portfolio. I watched that yesterday too, and I was just like in shock. I was like, what is going on? And then of course I realized that this is exactly what is going on. That is what was causing the downward pressure on the stock. And therefore all of us are being damaged. Any of us with any investment in Tesla, and honestly, anyone who cares about, science and space exploration and things like that, all of that is being threatened as well. This is a nasty situation that goes all the way from the common person like you and me, all the way up to the highest halls of power, two of the most powerful people in the world. It is damaging all the way around. None of this is good at all. And circling back to the AI tech bro culture that has been very instrumental in getting the US into this leadership position in AI, and a leadership position that is honestly being threatened by the likes of China at this point. So this is bad timing again, but this entire thing could put that relationship on the rocks, which means that the US government could pull some support or put more restrictions on this type of technology. And that would be very bad timing for this, because this is exactly when more and more resources need to be poured into that particular area to make sure that the US doesn't fall behind other parts of the globe. So these are all big picture issues, but I'll end with one that's a little bit more personal, but I think it's representative because a lot of people own Teslas, and that is that now we basically have everyone hating us, right? For a while, it was the conservatives that hated Tesla because it was a bunch of liberals and all that kind of stuff. And then the last year or so, it's been Democrats and liberals that have hated Teslas because it's a conservative thing in Elon Musk. And now both sides hate Teslas. And there have been posts on X in the last day or two. I can't verify their veracity or anything anything, but that in the same day somebody's been flipped off by, an F-350 diesel and also a Prius, somebody in a Prius. So you've got this thing where everybody hates Tesla now. And so even leaving the house in your Tesla has become a little bit of an adventure at this point, because one doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. So all the way up and down the tree of consequences, we are seeing major consequences of the actions that have happened since July of last year, all kind of coming to fruition at this point. What is going to happen in the future, I don't know, but it doesn't look like anything good is going to come out of it. The results of this are certainly not going to make Elon Musk come out smelling like a rose. They're certainly not going to make Donald Trump come out smelling like a rose. I don't think anybody wins in this situation. Tesla's board of directors has got to be sweating bullets at this point, because I think they're going to be seriously open to a class action lawsuit from shareholders. Anybody who owns Tesla stock has been damaged. Anyone who owns a Tesla has been damaged. Anyone who cares about science and the advancement of science. I was very sad to see Jared Isaacman, be pulled from the NASA directorship confirmation process. I think, even though he wasn't the most experienced person in that area, good heart, really smart guy, really passionate about science and space. I felt like, even though he might not have been the perfect person for that job, he was a very good candidate for that job. That is a shame as well. So there are just multiple negative consequences to all of this going on, which is why I felt like I had to discuss it today. Anyway, that's enough of that. I would much rather get back to more optimistic stuff, talking about AI. And like I said, I think in the next video, I will be talking about Andrej Karpathy and a couple of recent posts from him, because they're really interesting. So stick with me for that. If you appreciated this video, maybe you didn't like it, but anyway, if you appreciated the video, give it a thumbs up, give me a comment. Please keep it civil in the comments, I beg of you, because I know this is a very fraught topic, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.